Okay, hello everybody. Welcome back to my channel and blind reviews. So today I am doing a series review. I kind of explained why I'm doing a series review in the video, but the point is there really was no point in doing 5 individual book reviews. You'll understand when you get to the video. But so that's kind of where that's what I'm doing today. So I hope you enjoy this series overview. Let me know what you think in the comments. Would you like more of these? I actually might do more depending on, well, depending on the books I read. It could all depend. I review pretty much every book I read. So depending on the book I read, I could consider maybe doing series overviews if I feel like there's nothing to gain from it. I'm sorry, if I'm going to feel like I'm going to be super repetitive. So I feel like there might be nothing to gain from doing separate book reviews. So consider that. But before we get to the video, please consider subscribing and turning on notifications. That way you're aware when I release videos. If you're interested in my reviews, they're always on Sundays most of the time. So if you want to kind of be notified when I release them, definitely subscribe. Now you can also support me by checking out my writing. One way to do that is by looking at my blog, which will be in the website will be linked in my description. So take a look at that if you like. So you can definitely keep that in mind. And the other way is to consider supporting me by buying my book in the retailers in the description. This is my debut fantasy book, Daughter of Death, which follows Vivian, an 8-year-old half-deity who lives in the mortal realm. However, after 8 years, the mortal realm has finally discovered her. So she and her unusual family has to adjust to this new change. If the premise interests you, the links are in the description, and it will be released in a couple of weeks, actually, from when you're seeing this. It'll be released in a couple of weeks. So you can pre-order or you can participate in the pre-sale I am currently running. So my book is currently available on Smashwords, Apple, Kobo, and Barnes & Noble as of recording. As of recording, it is not on Amazon, but if it is, I will link it below. But I am currently running a pre-sale only available on Smashwords, which will last until the release date, which is December 26, 2023. And the if during the pre-sale you could potentially read my work early. Also, if you would I know this is a little bit late to mention this, at least in the reviews that I've been doing. If you would like an arc of my book in exchange for a review, or in general just an arc, feel free to email me. My contact information is in the description. So if you would like either one of those, you can let me know. And you can, on all retailers, you can find my book for 99 cents. It is fantasy and it is a short story, so it should be a quick read. But you can find it in the retailers. They'll be in the description. And yeah. Also, one more thing before we continue the video, please keep in mind that I'm the content warnings that I give in the beginning of the video. I try to be very sensitive and when reviewing this stuff, but and I don't go in depth on the content warnings I'm giving or on the subject matter that I'm giving. I do give my opinions, but again, please keep those in mind and take care of yourselves, especially if you choose to read this book. And with that, I hope you enjoy the video. So I usually review individual books, even in a series, right? I always take the time to review each individual book, and I have always something to say about each individual book. But for this case, I'm going to be reviewing a series. instead. And I'm going to give an overview, mostly spoiler free, probably with some broad spoilers. I will let you know if I'm going to be spoiling anything. Um, but the reason I have decided to do a series review rather than five, yes, it was the 5 book series, a five, uh, a five, wait, a five, but the reason, oh God, rather than doing 5 individual reviews, sorry, is because I actually don't have a lot to say on each individual book, if we're being honest. I don't. So I felt that the best way to do it, I actually thought I did, including I thought I was supposed to do a series, but also I thought I was going to say a lot of, for these books. I preemptively filmed the first review. Then I finished the series in 1 week. I literally ate it up. And I'm like, I don't really have a lot to say because a lot of the stuff that I'm going to be saying is redundant, which I guess you can say I did for the well, not fully, but I guess some of the things I said for the George R. Martin books, A Song of Ice and Fire, are kind of slightly redundant, but not necessarily. I think I had a different opinion in each book. But for this one, I don't. A lot of my stuff is extremely redundant. So instead of posting that first review and trying to record 4 other individual reviews over stuff and being super redundant and not having much to say, I decided to just do a full series review instead and give an overview of my thoughts of the series and talk about whatever I found in the series that I found that was interesting and so on and so forth. Also, I'm not necessarily a fangirl of this series. So it didn't feel right. It's not like Sarah J. Maas where I'm going to say some redundant stuff, but I'm a fangirl of Sarah J. Maas. So I'm going to be reviewing all the books because I am a Sarah J. Maas fan. Listen, it's not the same. But to give you some backstory, I have actually been meaning to read these books for a while, a couple of years. Ever since as a teenager, I read some interesting books that I technically shouldn't have been reading at that age, but I was 16 and curious, so I did. And because I had unrestricted access to books, I had unrestricted access to books with no supervision whatsoever. No one really knew that I read some spicy books, right? No one really knew that. So it's fine. You know, because I'm choosing to tell you this. But no one actually knew. So that's all that matters, right? Right. Point is, when I had intent to read it. I think I downloaded the books. I don't know when I downloaded the books on my thing, but I just got to it now because while I've been intending to read it for some time. It was part of like that whole 50 Shades of Grey was a thing, and then apparently Bared to You, like there was like before 50 Shades of Grey that was a thing, or during 50 Shades of Grey that was a thing, and it all had to do with like just the spicy books I read as a teenager, but also the fact that I think it was mentioned somewhere, one of the descriptions, like the author was mentioned and so on and so forth. But recently also my friend did want me to read them, so I decided, you know what, fine. It was in Bard, I could put it in audio, and I put it on my wish list, and I put the books on my wish list. They have all 5 books, and I put them on my wish list, and I'm like, fine, you know what, I got some time. I'm in the mood for some romance or erotica. Let's do it, right? That was my thought. I'm in the mood for some romance and erotica. Let's read the books. That was my thought. Let's read the books. So I picked up I decided to download the books, and I decided to read said books, and I feel like I watched 5 seasons of a soap opera. It was a train wreck you can't look away from. So as a premise, Crossfire is about a, a woman who is new in New York. Uh, Avia Trammell. She's new in New York, and she just moved in. She got this new job, um, and she ends up meeting Gideon Cross, who she is immediately attracted to, and but she is denying him because he basically showed up and basically said in no uncertain terms, I want to fuck you. And when I saw that, when I read that, by the way, my first thought was, well, at least he's honest. Which, by the way, that means that the bar is extremely low. If my thought is at least he's honest, that is a very low bar to reach, man. It is an even lower bar considering the title of my video. So, yeah. Eventually, though, he's still pursuing her, and he's like, okay, fine, you don't want to just have me sex, so what do you need for that to happen? And he decides to kind of adjust his rules to bend, I guess, to what she needs so that he can have sex with her, which, don't do that, please. I don't think this is healthy. I'm pretty sure it's not. It's not a healthy thing. So don't do it. I'm begging you. Don't do it. This is sad. So she kind of lays it out. She needs to be like a, friend. They can't be completely meaningless. It has to be kind of slightly emotional or whatever. So they become friends, and eventually they basically become friends with benefits, and then they, for the beginning, it's like they become friends with benefits, and then and then at some point, like 2 days after or so they agree to this, they kind of become a committed relationship. Listen, this is weird. I'm telling you, there's an audience. I will say right now, there is an audience for Crossfire as a series. There is an audience for it. There really is. There is an audience for this series, and the audience is and it's the audience who not necessarily fully like me, but kind of like me, who do enjoy soap operas. There's an audience for this. There's an audience for that, and that is the one it's reaching for me. The audience of I don't know what to say to any of this. It just feels that way. But point is that's kind of like the whole part of the book, and like that's where it goes. And they both have a very dark past, and they I guess bond over that and are kind of learning to try to build a good relationship because they're both very dysfunctional people. Shockingly, for the same reason, which I found, I don't know, I found it slightly, I don't know if I like the way things were portrayed here, but I am not no one to judge, because while I think it could have been explored better and things could have been done better here, the anyone who has suffered through the things that they have might have a different opinion, and I have never gone through this, so I don't know how to describe this in a way. I do want to give some content warnings. I may briefly touch on this stuff, and if I do, I'll let you know. But the point is, the content warnings I want to give are mentions and explicit mentions of sexual assault. There's also some explicit scenes of sexual assault in some of the books. There is that there's also child sexual assault, which is the one that's kind of like mentioned. There is very controlling behavior, and like possessive behavior and stalking. Lots and lots of stalking. So be aware of those things because they're gonna become, they're a really big part of most of the books, with the exception of maybe the fifth, but but it's more on the like the first like four books. So the majority of the books have this going on. Um, so I guess I'll give it some positives first, then some negatives, and then try to smash in some positives at the end. So the prose of this book is actually really good. I enjoyed the prose. I will tell you right now that there is no way I was reading this series for the plot. I did not read this series for the plot. A lot of the reasons I read it was because it was good prose, and the format was soap opera format. That is like the main reason I read it. But I assure you, I did not read this for plot. These books have no plot. And that's okay. I don't think all stories need a plot. The fact that this didn't have a plot didn't bother me so much. But because it kind of works. It kind of works because of that soap opera format. Because basically the way soap operas seem to work, at least the ones I've watched, is you get a plot thread. You get a plot thread. You either resolve it or you don't, but it doesn't matter at the end. It's dropped, and then another plot thread is picked up, then dropped. So you get a bunch of plot threads that are literally just picked up and dropped out of nowhere, and then you just move on to the next. I think those books can be fun, but I do just want to say there is no plot. If you're a plot-driven reader, these are not the books for you because there is no plot here. There is just a bunch of events that get smashed into that are loosely connected to what is a quote unquote plot, but it's not as like basically it's not like a Neil Gaiman's American Gods where the events are loosely connected but they to the plot, but they make sense and they add to the plot. This is kind of just a bunch of events that are smashed together, and then they happen and then they're dropped, and then they happen and they're dropped. A lot of these events are literally added for purposes of drama, just drama purposes, and to create conflict with the characters, but they are not added for plot reasons. This is my opinion, because I read this book and I tell you there is no plot. There is no plot. None of these books have a plot. These books have a soap opera format, which is fine. You know what? It's fine. Write soap opera format books more often, y'all. It's fine. The only thing that I will say is if you write these soap opera format books, I would caution. At least this is what I feel as a writer. If I was to write a soap opera format book where it's just drama, and none of it is important, you just like drop plot threads as you see fit. If I were to do that, I want to caution, or at least I would want to be cautious about writing in very hard themes like the ones that are written here, because if my opinion and my philosophy when writing and reading is that if you're going to add certain themes to the books, you need to give them the page time for them to be explored, and it shouldn't be a superficial thing that you added for your character. You cannot sacrifice theme for plot, and you cannot sacrifice certain plot lines for others, which is a issue that I do have with romance genre. So one of the things that happens in a lot of romance books that I have read is that you will have it's meant to be a romance, but you add these complicated themes. You add, let's say, I don't know, body image issues, you add mental health issues, you add this, you add that. But at the end of the day, these themes and any other plot lines you add are sacrificed in order to develop the romance. In my opinion, if you're going to add it, you should explore it and give it the page time. Otherwise, get rid of those themes and just focus on the romance, and maybe make the conflict not necessarily internal, not completely internal, but more external than not. That is my philosophy when writing. That's it. That's like what I believe. And this is how I choose to write. If I add anything that I think is going to be a hard subject, I want to give it the page time. Or if I add it and I choose not to give it the page time, I want to have a reason as to why I'm choosing not to explore it or give it the page time. So while I deleted this story, I did have a story. I did have a prequel to my Daughter of Death story where there was a traumatic event that happened, but I didn't explore it on the page when I wrote it in the first draft. And the reason I decided not to do that is because I specifically wanted to focus on the romance, and this is kind of what led to it, and because the character didn't want to talk about it, and she made a hard rule where she's like, don't ask me about my past, don't ask me about any of that, and she got mad every time it did. So, and then the person respected the reason. So I added the reasoning as to why that wouldn't be explored. And I think if I have a reason, I feel more comfortable. But I am cautious when writing about if I want to write anything at all and I want to discuss harsher themes, because I do think, or harder themes, not harsher, or more difficult topics, I do want to be mindful that these things exist and that they deserve a full page to explore them, the said themes. And if you don't want to do that, have a reason as to why, maybe mention it briefly or something, but I don't know. That's my belief. And I think these books fall into the I am going to add these things to give my characters, I guess, a very dark backstory, but I'm not going to explore it. So they are mainly added for drama, and they are not, I don't know. I feel like the exploration is mainly superficial, if anything else. And while it's there, and I think it did both good and bad. I can't be sure because obviously I didn't go through what the characters did. It feels like it's a very forced thing to add, especially in the last book, where the addition of certain things just felt like just the end added drama, and it feels very odd. And I'm specifically talking about, by the way, pretty much all the trigger warnings I gave for stalking, the childhood sexual assault, and the explicit sexual assault. Like, these are themes that are rampant in the books, but they feel like they were added for dramatic purposes and to, I guess, give the characters more character because if we're being honest, that literally half the time the character's only personality is that they're obsessed with each other. So if you're gonna write a book that's soap opera style, I do want to say tread lightly. If you're going to use certain themes, that's my advice because that's my belief. But I know this may not work for everybody, and that's fine. I would just say tread lightly, because these, we also don't want to. At least me as a writer, I do not want to minimize the trauma of these things that can happen. Like, I don't want to minimize how much they affect people. And what happens in these books is that I feel like the themes here are I feel like the books minimize so many issues that happen to so many things that can and do happen to people. And I just these books are a big lesson for me, I think, on like treading very lightly, because I don't want to minimize I don't want to minimize anything that's like really bad. So that's a rant I want to give. So that's a thing. I just don't want to. I don't want to do that. But yeah, the prose is good. Trust me, I did not read this for plot. The pacing of these books, way too fast. These books literally take place within a couple of months, and all this drama happens within a couple of months. In the first book especially, was it you? This is insta love. This is insta love to the max. By like maybe a week or a month of them knowing each other, Ava already says I love you, and I'm here going, oh come on. By the third book, they're married. Um, yeah, yeah. By the end of the third book, they're married. That by, it's so much. And by the way, just to give you an idea of all the drama that gets added in here, there is a murder that both Ava and Gideon are trying to cover up after he specifically kind of broke her heart and made her feel like he didn't want her anymore, and basically hurting her, and she was just like, it needed to be believable, and he gave plausible deniability by doing that because he killed Ava's child abuser for her to be safe. Apparently, there is something regarding the Russian mob at some point that turned out to be nothing. Gideon had a stalker that opened fire in the last book, and the one character I liked died, and then the book kind of, for me, well, I think they were trying to make her like, they were trying to justify some of the actions that she took, but to me, in my opinion, character assassinated her. There was so much added to these books that didn't need to be there, just to pad out the pages and make it soap opera like. So it was a ride, y'all. Like I said earlier, I think a lot of the themes that are explored here are very superficial, and they feel like they've kind of been added for drama purposes, and I do not like this. These characters are not necessarily three-dimensional. It's mainly drama happening around them, so the themes that are added are supposed to give it more character, but they just don't get to develop on their own well. I will say that at least there is a semblance of a character arc. They kind of do go through a character arc. Which is something that 50 Shades of Grey fails at doing, hence the title. I'll talk about that a little bit more. I'll talk about that as well as I'm talking about something else about this in a little bit, but I will say there's semblance of a character arc, which I like. They did go through a character arc. Oh, and I also appreciated that by the end of it, they didn't have kids. Jeez. Romance, marriage, and children are I don't know, it's just irritating to me. Then again, I don't want to have children, so that could be why. But I was just like, no. The romance is insta love, and not even well done insta love. Like, well done insta love is Laini Taylor and the Kiss Quotient. This is just insta love to be insta love, and I'm here like, I hate it so much. This kind of thing where they're like, by the first week or by like the first month, they're like, I love you, and I'm like, I hate both of you. Why did you do this to me? I didn't enjoy it. Like, not at all. I did not enjoy it. And I just find myself irritated by this insta love. Now, you must be looking at this title and wondering, how is this a better version of 50 Shades of Grey? So, I said that there is a semblance to a character arc, and there kind of is a general character arc, although I still didn't necessarily like them by the end. I think the author did a good job at portraying a toxic relationship with people who actually wanted to do better. Um, and then, and with people who actually wanted to do better, and seeing the unhealthy patterns they keep kind of dropping into, and then trying to fix, and then trying and them trying to fix these toxic and unhealthy patterns. I think that's like what the author did well. It portrayed a really toxic relationship, and then as the books continue, they establish certain things and certain boundaries here and there. Now, that a lot of those boundaries I feel like are established more in the fifth book than anything else, because it feels like the fifth book needed to be the resolution. But I think the author did do a good job at like seeing like a portraying an extremely toxic relationship and showing us how it's bad. It's not portraying it as good. Not like in 50 Shades of Grey, where the relationship between Anastasia and Christian is portrayed as though it's good. This book doesn't necessarily do that. Well, these books do that, but not completely. There are moments where a lot of his stuff is excused and all that stuff, but there are also a lot of the arc is the a lot of this arc is about them kind of trying to learn to fall out of, to stop basically them trying to learn not to continue these unhealthy patterns. I also like that it kind of it actually portrayed therapy as a good thing, and it didn't feel like some kind of like therapy was completely forced. It made the therapy made sense considering what was added for the characters. Again, even if some of the stuff that was added felt superficial to me. Um, and I so that was some that I want to give credit where credit is due for that. I also want to give credit where credit is due for not falling into another trap that E.L. James fell into, and that was making well she well he well no, she didn't really fall into, I don't think Sylvia Day fell into this trap, but basically making some of the things that Gideon did completely because of his trauma. So one of the things in 50 Shades of Grey is that it suggests is that Christian became a dominant because he was assaulted as a kid. And here we don't have that for Gideon. We have him sort of just nothing that he does is excused necessarily by his assault. Nothing is blamed necessarily on it. He does have nightmares on that stuff, but nothing he did, none of it was based on his assault. If anything, it could be nothing was based on that. If anything, it could be the fact that when he did say something, the person that should have didn't believe him. So maybe he developed a mask for that. But some of the things that he does aren't completely in, are not necessarily blamed on the abuse. I do have a theory that E.L. James used to develop Christian Grey, and the reason he became a quote unquote dominant, not even a good one, I just want to say, but he supposedly became a dominant, and he supposedly was dominant. I do want to say that I have a theory that E.L. James took research from Sigmund Freud, who basically, I don't know the full thing, but basically he suggested that people would go into what he called, I guess, perverted behavior based on childhood sexual abuse, or just childhood abuse in general, I think it was. And that also included things like what he considered, I guess, perverted behavior for him was something like being gay, and I guess being like into BDSM would fall into that category in Freud's mind, did research, whatever the research was, which of course Freud's research has been proven to be incorrect from my understanding. So let's not go with Sigmund Freud, especially when he suggests that there is some, I think, like sexual attraction between children and their parents. Let's not do that. So that is my theory for E.L. James, but it doesn't look like, at least I didn't catch any traps like that. That said, there are it does fall. That said, I do think that his whole thing of control could be looked back at that. It's almost like it was implied that it was because of that, since he had no control and no one believed him, no one did anything. So it could be said that this was a reason, but I'm not sure. Maybe I could have read it wrong. I think another thing I want to say is the one thing I think that was, I don't know if this was necessarily the way. Basically, both are childhood abuse survivors in the book, in books. I'm not gonna really talk about that too much, but they are, and they found themselves and all that stuff, but a lot of it feels, it does fall into the trap of the same thing that 50 Shades of Grey fell into, where the female character fixes the man. It also fixes him. Like, he attended therapy for her and because of her, in order to get her. So it doesn't always read like he loves her. It kind of reads like he is super obsessed over her and he will do anything to get her, including go to therapy. Even though there are moments where everybody's like, oh no, you're great, you inspire me, you make me stronger, and I'm like, where? And so that is a thing that this book does fall under. One of the other things that it does fall into the trap of, though it is stated to be wrong and later it is worked on, is the trap that sex is a cure-all. Basically, a lot of romance novels that have, like, especially male characters with dark backstories, have this thing where they basically fuck their problems. And it does start out that way for both characters, but now it is discussed and kind of not necessarily fixed, but it is dealt with to a point, you know what I mean? So it's I don't know, it feels that's it. Like, those are kind of my thoughts on this series. But if you have read Crossfire, what do you think about it? I find myself sort of I find myself kind of like thinking a little bit about it, just going, I think it has an audience. It fits that soap opera audience. Someone like me who does enjoy soap operas. Sometimes there are some soap operas like Elite that kind of fits like a soap opera, sort of. It kind of follows that similar model, but I don't like it because it tries to do something. There are too many inconsistencies, and then season 2 hits, and I'm like, shit, this just went low quality for me. So yeah, I don't know. I feel there is an audience for this book. This book is good for soap opera lovers, in my opinion. Like, if I were to look at books and be like, recommend books for soap opera lovers, this would be like the number one recommendation. Maybe followed by a couple of others that kind of fit the bill. So even series, like I have some series. I would just make it a series for soap opera lovers. I don't know, like a or like a thing, but there are books for that, and that is an audience, and that is a good, and it is good to write books like this. There are no there are no there not all books have a plot, and I honestly feel like there are no set rules for writing, so let's just have some fun with our writing, you know? Let's have some fun with our stories. Let's create interesting stories, right? That's my thought. Let's create some interesting and fun and diverse kind of stories. Let me know what you think in the comment section below about everything I said, including Crossfire. I don't know. I don't know. I'll probably do more videos like this. If there's not a lot that I have to say on a series, I'll probably create a just do, if I read it as quickly as I read this one, I will probably just, or even not even read it as quickly, but if I realize I don't have much to say, I'm probably just going to do a full series overview like I did for this. So those are my thoughts. I will, yeah, let me know what you think in the comment section. So yeah, that's it. That's all I got. Hey, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed today's video. Again, as I said, I tried to be really sensitive with the issues and tried not to, you know, touch on them too much because I'm no expert, but also, you know, everybody has like a different experience with the books and stuff like that. So please be mindful of the content warnings I gave in the beginning, especially if you plan to comment in the in this video. Please be mindful of that, but also be mindful if you plan to read it. And if you do plan to comment and you would like to, and you are going to talk about triggering content, please give a content warning. I would appreciate that. And I'm sure so would the audience. So please keep this in mind. And if they're, due to the subject matter of this book, if there are any kind of comments, I mean, I would do this for any video, but especially because this is a very strong subject matter, if there are any comments that could be considered hurtful, I will be deleting them, and yeah, I may ban or block you. So please keep that in mind when you comment. Comment section is not a democracy. If I feel like there are comment sections, if I feel like there are comments here that are hurtful in any way, especially to survivors of the events discussed in the book, in the books, in stuff like that, I will be deleting and blocking. I do not have a democratic comment section for things like this, okay? And for any hateful comments in general of any of my videos. Okay, glad we cleared that up. So that out of the way, I still hope you enjoyed this series review and my analysis on it. If you want to see more content like this, I consider subscribing to my channel and turning on notifications so you're aware when I release videos. And if you would like to support me in any way, you can check out my writing in by checking out my website /blog, which will be linked in the description. You can also support me by considering buying my book, which will also be linked in the description. It is a debut fantasy short story called Daughter of Death. I am very proud of this debut. You can either participate in the pre-sale, which is only available on Smashwords, or you can pre-order from Apple, Barnes & Noble, and Kobo. As of recording, it is not on Amazon, but when it gets to Amazon, I will be, and if it is on Amazon by the time this is out, I will link it in the description. So check that out there. On all retailers, you can find my book for 99 cents. Also, if you would like an ARC, feel free to email me. The email is in the description. And with that, thank you so much for watching. And until next time, consume stories. Bye!